The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is about a man named Arthur Dent who escapes Earth when a fleet of alien ships come to destroy it. He then travels among the stars with his friend and the President of the Galaxy. They are searching for the meaning of life and finally find the big computer that is supposed to give them the meaning of life, and it states, humorously, the meaning of life is 42. The main character then goes on to discover more about the nature of life itself and what our lives mean. Douglas Adams used his sense of humor to add another level of thought to the book, making it quite enjoyable. Adams' witty and sophisticated sense, and writes with a surprisingly modern feel, as he wrote the book in 1979. Some parts about space aren't so clear and understandable from where we stand, but that's due to the time frame in which the book was written. A big and important theme was the awe and amazement of the incredible galaxies and planets described by Douglas Adams. He described in detail many aspects of the book, which we would have no idea how to picture. Next part to be discussed is the depth of analysis one must go through to understand the novel. Many themes and little jokes that some don't understand until the end of the story or don't get it at all. All this put together definitely warrants for the book to be put on a grade 12 reading list level. There are some parts of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that anyone not from the 70s or 80s will not pick up, why there is such an emphasis on those parts of the novel. There is an example in this quotation. Even the most seasoned star tramp can't help but shiver at the spectacular drama of the sunrise seen from space. But a binary sunrise is one of the marvels of the galaxy. Quotation. In the 70s, when Adams was writing the novel, people were still going crazy for the pictures of Earth from space, which has today become common to us and is how we view the Earth. People were especially taken by pictures of a sunrise from space because it is truly beautiful, and it was a fairly recent sight and discovery. Then Adams goes even farther to propose the sight of a binary sunrise, which consists of two suns in a galaxy rising at the same time over a planet. Even today, people will go crazy for this, but in the 70s, this is probably something not many people had even thought about or heard about, making the reader truly amazed. The second point I wanted to bring up follows this quotation. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy says that if you hold a lungful of air, you can survive in the total vacuum of space for about 30 seconds. Quotation. However, it goes on to say that with space being the mind-boggling size that it is, the chances of getting picked up in those few seconds are about 2 to the power of 2 billion. Quotation. At the time that this book was written, still little was known about space by an ordinary person, and facts about space fascinated the general public. It's hard to imagine a place where there is no breathable air other than underwater, especially if you learn about this place halfway through your life. Taking the novel into historical context ties in with the theme of awe and amazement to a great degree. Douglas Adams used awe and amazement to do exactly what it says, but especially people within the specific time period he wrote the novel. The quote educates the reader on just how big space is. Space, it says, is big, really big. You won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you'll think it's a long way down the road to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Quotation. How big space is, probably we will never know, or we don't even have an idea how big that is. Adams fills his readers' minds with amazement by describing space as vast, huge, and mind-boggling. He then goes on to say that human distances don't even compare to the vast distances of space. And by traversing these spaces in spaceships in his book, our minds leave us with a sense of awe and wonder. Adams goes beyond what we think to be normal and makes us reevaluate our presence on Earth by having this as a part of his story. Quotation. It is possible that her command would have warranted greater attention had it been generally realized that human beings were only the third most intelligent life form present on the planet instead of second. To think that we are not the most intelligent life form on the planet is absurd but also plausible, and a question that cannot be truly answered. To think that we are not right about everything is also awe-filled and makes you think everything, even to the fact that we might not be the most intelligent life form on the planet. Truly, this is a remark to marvel and wonder about. Deeply analyzing The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is imperative to understanding the plotline and underlying humor. Adams has produced a world that we know nothing of, yet it has deep parallels to ours, and he wants us to know the same things that we do. In fact, in the story, aliens made our planet as a resource to figure out the great question of life, our purpose, and everything. A computer called Deep Thought was built to find out the answer to the question of life, our purpose, and everything. And after 7.5 million years, it came up with this answer. Quotation. "All right," said Deep Thought. "The answer to the great question of life, the universe, and everything is," said Deep Thought and paused. 42, said Deep Thought with infinite majesty and calm. "The answer is absurd given the complexity of the question. The people that came to hear the answer thought a question like this would have a longer answer, which would fill a hole in them with satisfaction. The point to the answer, which the people don't understand, is that it took 7.5 million years to come up with a simple answer that in itself means nothing. The underlying answer the computer came up with is that there is no answer to life, and you're wasting your time trying to figure it out." The second point I have to bring up in terms of deep analysis has to do with the babelfish, which, if inserted into your ear, makes any language become understandable. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, the poor babelfish, by effectively removing all barriers to communication between different races and cultures, has caused more and bloodier wars than anything else in the history of creation. Quotation. This is saying that sometimes we perceive that wars are started by a lack of communication when it really would have been worse if we could understand each other perfectly. Adams definitely does not seem to believe in human nature as innately good. In conclusion, this book should definitely be added to the grade 12 reading list because it makes the reader focus hard on what they are reading. There are loads of little underlying themes and symbols that can be unraveled and used in an essay. The historical criticism is also quite apparent in the story, but not too obvious, and there's not too much of it so that we can hardly understand the book in today's time. Lastly, the awe and wonder exhibited in the galaxies and planets of the novel are truly amazing, especially when the mind comes to picture those galaxies which are described. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is on many must-read lists, and should definitely be a part of the possible books for the grade 12s to read at the grade 12 level.